until the election, and former President Trump is facing a new legal battle. Members of the Central Park Five are now suing the former president over, quote, false and defamatory statements they say that he made about their 1989 case during a presidential debate last month.
CNN senior crime and justice reporter Caitlin Polans joins us now with more. Caitlin, what is in this lawsuit?
Well, this lawsuit is about comments that Donald Trump made publicly at this presidential debate. At the debate in September in Philadelphia, Kamala Harris had brought up the fact that Donald Trump, just days after the Central Park Five were arrested, this assault in Central Park in 1989, he had put an ad in several newspapers, full page, that said, "Bring back the death penalty, bring back the police." And then Donald Trump responded at the debate just this year this way.
A lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five. They admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty.
So the Central Park Five now say that he is saying these things as a way to cause distress to them because they were exonerated ultimately. They had ultimately settled with New York City after being forced into giving false statements. They had gone to trial. And they are all saying now they never pleaded guilty. They were cleared of the wrongdoing. No one was killed in this attack in 1989. And this has been a pattern from Donald Trump dating the whole way back to the aftermath of that attack when these men were arrested, that he has wanted to intentionally harm them and cause them distress. And one of the plaintiffs, one of the men in the Central Park Five, he was at that debate in Philadelphia and even tried to approach Trump. And they had what he said, or what his attorneys say, was they wanted to have some sort of polite discourse about what Trump had said in the moment on national television about these exonerated men. And Trump essentially blew him off. He wouldn't engage with them. So this lawsuit is a defamation case that they're bringing now to try and say, you know, make us whole, stop intentionally lying, stop intentionally harming us. And of course, the context here is right before the campaign. There's quite an ongoing appeal among the campaigns to black men specifically, a lot of discussion about crime. And then also in this context, Donald Trump has been found liable for defamation before against E. Jean Carroll.
Joining me now to discuss is Shannon Spector. He's the lead counsel for the Central Park Five in this case. Shannon, thank you so much for being with us. Why did the group decide to sue former President Trump?
Well, first, Boris, thanks for having me on. 67 million Americans saw Donald Trump say that these five men pled guilty to quote, having killed, unquote, this woman, and those statements are false and defamatory. They did not plead guilty, and they did not kill anyone. In fact, the victim did not die. And these men now have to clear their names all over again. Mr. Trump failed to acknowledge that they have been fully exonerated, that the person who was guilty confessed, was convicted, is serving time in prison, that the DA's office petitioned the court to vacate the conviction, that the judge signed that order. And so these men have been fully exonerated, and yet Mr. Trump continues to suggest that they are guilty.
Hello, welcome to episode 110 of Just My Opinion. And this one I'm titling Central Park 5. Due to a recent lawsuit that was filed by members of the Central Park Five against former President Donald Trump over defamatory and false statements that Mr. Trump made during the September 2024 presidential debate. Statements was alleged made about their 1989 case during the presidential debate in September. The five men claim in a lawsuit filed saying that Mr. Trump knowingly and purposely made false and defamatory statements towards these gentlemen and reckless statements and disregarded statements of the truth when he was debating Vice President Kamala Harris in the September debate. Kamala Harris stated that they pled guilty to crimes connected to beating and raping a woman in New York City, that the 5 teenagers that barely hurt and killed the person. These were the statements that Mr. Trump made, that they badly hurt and killed the person. Mr. Trump's statements were false and defamatory. In numerous aspects, attorneys for the men, now all in their 50s, wrote in their filed lawsuit in Philadelphia. Central Park 5 allegedly assaulted a plaintiff and all pled guilty, but maintained their innocence throughout their incarceration, as well as their imprisonment. None of the victims of the Central Park assaults were killed. Lawyer Yusef Islam, Raymond Santana, and Kevin Richardson, and Antoine Brown and Corey Rosford. The group was pressured into giving false statements in the case. They was a sign of rise in 2002 when DNA evidence linked another person to the crime. The teenagers sued the city and the state, and the case was settled in 2014. Trump has long been outspoken against these gentlemen. When the case initially broke, it stirred up a lot of emotions amongst people around the country. You had a white female that was savagely beaten and raped. Intentions were high and feelings were high at this point because of the racial dynamics of the case. And not only just the racial dynamics of the case. You had a woman that was viciously beaten and raped. And I could understand if tensions were high and people felt a certain way about it. But when it's proven that these gentlemen were coerced, threatened, may I say otherwise, they was coerced, threatened to say that they did a crime that they didn't commit, and which later DNA evidence exonerated these men for all wrongdoing, and which later cost the city of New York a substantial amount of money for their wrongful conviction and imprisonment. But Mr. Trump stood fast and stuck to the fact that he think they're guilty, that they did this, stating that the woman died. She did not die for the rape or the beating. I know she went through a lot of trauma, and my prayers and thoughts go out to her too, because she's the victim. As well as the 5 gentlemen, the freedom that was taken away from them. Those years you'll never get back in your life. This is a case of Donald Trump opening his mouth and think he's allowed to say anything he wants to say, and there's no repercussions. You can't go around making false or accusations about people when it's been proven that this is not true at all. You can't. And you recklessly made these statements thinking there's going to be no repercussions for these statements that you made. No, sir. There's going to be repercussions. There's going to be a time where you're going to have to answer for the accusations that you made against these gentlemen. Defaming their name. Putting that jacket on these gentlemen when they have been clearly exonerated. You open up old wounds when these men are fully found innocent. But you're sticking to the narrative that they're guilty. Making up false statements that the woman died from this. She did not. She definitely did not. I wish the woman who was a victim in all of this, that was raped and beaten, the best. Hope that she can get over her ordeal. And I wish the 5 men the freedom that was taken for them, and their youth and their prime was taken for them, the best. Donald Trump took out news articles saying, across the country in newspapers saying, where's the police? Bring back the death penalty. He was passionate about this. But the same thing, I'm going to say this. If you're passionate about getting the right person convicted and brought to the law, be passionate about saying you're sorry and apologizing and you was wrong. Just say it's good to see that the right person was brought to justice for this, and that an innocent man wasn't convicted of this. It was a rush to judgment. It was a rush to hold somebody responsible for this. And I understand, because it was a savage and a hideous thing. You're raping and beating a woman. Savage. But in this case, Mr. Trump, you're wrong. You're totally wrong. Just say, mea culpa, my bad, I'm sorry. And let the past be the past, and let these gentlemen get on with their life, and let this woman continue to heal and get on and live the rest of her life. Thanks, like, share, and subscribe. Comment. I'd like to give a shout out to Abood Saeed Amin. He does the music for my outros and intros. Anybody want to get in contact with him for any beats or anything? Abood Saeed Amin at Facebook, Instagram. Thank you. Goodbye.